All right. Welcome back to the Copywriters Podcast with your host, the world's greatest copywriting coach, David Garfinkel. David, how are you doing today?
Nathan, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and we've got a special episode lined up for the listeners today. So I'm going to hand it over to you and enjoy and absorb as much as I can.
Great. Well, we do. And I want to start out by saying something nobody would expect. As some viewers have noticed, I wear a Pinky in the Brain hat. And in the excellent cartoon where this comes from, when the brain bonks Pinky on the head with a big hammer, it's just another event in the day. It's a cartoon. No harm, no foul. The action continues like nothing happened. Now, we'll get to why I bring this up very soon, but I think you're in for a jolt of a very different sort with our guest today, power copywriter Craig Dave Cobol, pardon me. He specializes in copy for e-commerce sites, and his copy has racked up an astonishing $33 million in sales for clients over the last couple years. He's done this using a system he developed called Cashvertorials, which is based on some carefully researched and tested neuroscience and persuasion material, state-of-the-art stuff that he'll share with us today. I should also mention, like Nathan and myself, he's a musician, and one thing that sets him apart is he speaks Swedish, as does the world's current top songwriter, Max Martin, who also speaks English. But what you will hear today now is in plain English, as plain as I can make it. Copy is powerful. You're responsible for how you use what you hear in this podcast, and most of the time, common sense is all you need. But if you make extreme claims, and if you're writing copy for offers in highly regulated industries like health, finance, and business opportunity, you may want to get a legal review after you write and before you start using your copy. My larger clients do this all the time. Okay, Craig, well, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, David. Just thrilled to be talking with you here from the Tartan Ballroom. I have to apologize for the '60s decor, but it's I refuse to change it.
Yeah,
Even though,
I do understand that. Some things you get used to, and that's how you like to do. Now, as far as getting bonked on the head goes, I think there's an important story about you and a couple of dogs. You want to share it with us?
yeah, sure. So, I can kind of credit the success that I've had to a very weird accident that happened October 27th, 2020. Was walking in the river valley with my dog Bob, who's a golden retriever, and we were jumped. We were jumped by a raging, snarling pit bull. Knocked both Bob and I down the slope. I cracked my head on a log. Was knocked out cold and spent some time in the hospital. Concussion diagnosis. Basically was told by my doctor, zero screen time for you for the next 3 weeks, which, as a copywriter with a fully booked calendar is really a hard command to deal with, being forced to shut the laptop and turn off the lights. And I was ready for this to be sort of a bank breaking event for me. And I had a couple choices. I could down a couple, I could down daily Advil smoothies, put on some thick shades, and try to write through the pain. But with a steady buffet of headaches and just really, really being unable to spend any amount of time in front of the screen, that wasn't going to work. So, in front of me was a choice, feeling like maybe I need to log out of the copywriting game altogether and refund my clients and zero my cash flow and Control Alt Delete all of my savings, and to avoid getting a reputation of being the copywriter with the broken brain. So little did I know there was actually a third way, and I'm thrilled to talk to you about that actually enabled me to keep serving my clients in a way that was quick and efficient, and didn't involve me being in front of the screen for nearly as much time. So yeah, I'm glad to say the daily headaches are a lot better now. They're gone,
Wow.
but it's taken 8, 9, 10 months to get to this point.
So I guess if there any children watching and they see a cartoon where somebody bonks someone else over the head with a hard mallet,
Uh-huh.
thing is, kids, don't try this at home. It's actually not really that much fun. Um, so what was that third way that you came up with, and how did you get there, and what happened?
Essentially, when it comes to e-commerce, before this happened, I was having a lot of success with my clients, and had a really good client who let me kind of push the boundaries in terms of what's possible. And so my focus was, basically on three things: creating e-commerce sales pages that attract eyeballs and tickle curiosity, and obviously monetize the attention that they get. Um, and part of why I was having so much success, and I think we all want to know that. We want to, as copywriters, we're curious, why is this succeeding or why is this failing? A lot of it was turning these plain Jane products into objects of desire. Um, and just like I was trying to deal with screen fatigue, I think prospects that come to these pages are also dealing with decision fatigue, and are looking for a way to, we have to help them overcome this cognitive overload.
Let me slow you down a second. Ask
Yeah,
you about turning a plain Jane object into an
yeah,
object of desire. I mean, I guess that's what everybody wants to do. And with e-commerce, when I don't know, someone's buying a toothbrush or paper towel rack, or I mean, I don't know. Could you give me an example? I mean, maybe we can go through this later as to how you did it and what you
yeah.
used, but like, what would be a plain Jane object, and what is its object of desire version look like?
Sure. So one recent challenge I had with a client was for a butter knife. Probably sounds like the most boring thing in the world. But I was jolted awake by this idea of butter blenders. Like, what mistakes can people make with butter knives? So, I mean, here's the headline from it. Can we all agree that broken toast, injured fingers, and 5 other butter blunders can end now, thanks to this weird knife that makes pancakes, waffles, muffins, and bread 10 times tastier in seconds? So what I did is I went through, the 5 different mistakes that people make with butter knives. Weird stuff, but it works. I can mention a couple of them. One is, hacking big blocks of butter and with a butcher knife, slipping and slicing your finger. Another one can be, leaving frozen butter on the counter and forgetting about it, and then running into it, the rancid remains 3 days later. Another butter blunder, like Dad murdered the muffins, right? When you stab sweet treats with baked goods with the wrong type of knife. So it's just, it's being able to look at something and often the reason that weird works, and the reason why this sort of bizarreness effect works so well is because it uses surprise, shock value, and it differentiates the product very easily. So that'd be one practical example.
Yeah, no, that's great. Let's talk about that for a little, because let's call them your doctrinaire, or let's call them knee jerk. Your knee jerk copywriter might put a headline like, the 7 deadly butter mistakes most people make in their kitchen, right?
Hmm.
What? Right? That doesn't work. And I don't know, maybe Hammaker Schlemmer, or maybe Jay Peterman, might say something really lofty and poetic about a butter knife. Oh, oh, butter knife, how doth thy edges spread the marmalade? I really don't know, but you seem to have there's something really different about it, seems to me. I mean, maybe other people are doing it, but I've never seen it. And I I was I was I instantly realized all of the muffins, crackers, and pieces of toast I destroyed when I was hearing you, and the
Right.
list is long. Could you? I don't know if I'm interrupting your story, but I mean, because I want to hear how you developed all this, but I'd love for you to break this down just a little, and explain why you're, because I can see why it works, but I can't quite understand your thought process. Or is the
Right.
idea there is no thought process because your brain hurts too much?
Yeah. breaking down the process was a challenge for me. This stuff comes pretty quickly. I think the idea is high contrast, high emotion copy, because it's easier to remember, and because prospects are bombarded by so many distractions. Getting into things and saying things that's going to get them. It's going to get them to pay attention on the page. I kind of liken it to almost to Tinder dating, right? In a sense, it's it's kind of like a short-term dating focus, right? Where success on Tinder begins with a profile, and the decision whether somebody's going to be interested in something is made in milliseconds, like attraction or rejection. And so, on these pages, you also need photos that speak to what people are looking for. In many cases, when it comes to these products, impulse decisions, it's all about Mr. Right now and not necessarily Mr. Right. So, the Cashvertorial, the pages, allows prospects to meet the product in person, just like on a Tinder date, right? Does the picture look like, does a person in real life or the product in real life look like the picture? So we can do that by including smart packaging and product shots. Does the person on the Tinder date vibe with the person, right, in a bunch of different places? That's where use cases come in. Are they effortless to hang out with? So making sure that you're showing that the product is really easy to use. And one way that I do that is add some sort of colorful characters. My favorite one for this is the clumsy brother-in-law who was able to install the light in seconds. Of course, everybody who is buying a product online wants to avoid the walk of shame and, will I respect myself in the morning? And that's where we add guarantees that reduce uncertainty, make it easier for prospects to say yes.
Yeah, I don't think there are any guarantees on Tinder, though.
Yeah, no, there are definitely not. Most certainly. Yeah, for sure.
No, it's interesting. I don't know if this is an admission or a virtue signal, but I'm not real familiar with Tinder. If I were about 20 years younger, I probably would be. But I do have a copywriter friend who shall remain nameless, who got divorced, and that could be half my copywriter friends. So I'm not necessarily talking about anyone in particular. And was doing Tinder. He was killing it on Tinder. And he actually walked me through a lot of the stuff he was doing. And I thought, man, this guy's dangerous. But he was having a good time. Apparently the women were.
One thing that's interesting about the hero images inside of a Tinder profile, if we think about it as a product online, is it's not just the image itself, it's what it says about the person or the product. So, one thing you can do is put these interesting objects in the background, kind of call it the law of embedded effects, that speak to some other desirable things that people want. So you're going to get the Tinder picture of the guy on the beach. I don't know, these are horrible, but the shirtless guy with the tropical background tells you something about how much in shape he is, but also what his lifestyle is like. So, if you think back to the TV commercials with cleaning products, it's always a sparkling, modern, brand new kitchen in the background, isn't it? And the kids are so well behaved. The kids are amazingly well behaved. So we can do that inside of Cashvertorials as well.
So it's almost like the floor wax makes your kids behave better, isn't it?
Bizarre.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So as you're talking about this, and just to be disclosing or transparent with everyone, Dave and I have emailed and texted back and forth a lot about this, but this is the first time we've actually talked. I'm starting to get the idea that you're definitely using direct response methods, but you're also borrowing very strategically and very judiciously from brand advertising or mainstream institutional advertising in order to enhance this, especially because we're in the Facebook, iPhone, iPad, Tinder, Instagram age. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. I think the other thing too is that because, people make decisions based on reviews today so much. And over 70% of Americans look at product reviews before they make a purchase. 92% will base their decisions from recommendations on people they know, and they trust recommendations. So what you can do inside of these sales pages is create the feeling of being known, intimacy. And one way that I do that is through the reviewer, him or herself, being a little bit snarky, pretty particular, but then also, pulling in the reader and saying, "Hey, I've got a confession to make. Lean in close. I've got something I need to share with you." And that comes from a lot of that comes from the subliminal anchors that Robert Cialdini teaches in Persuasion, right? The law of self-disclosure. So we can include these, I like to call them like confessional cookie trails that bring back the reader into a position of trust. The adage that we somehow have to date our customers and expose them to 22 advertisements and chase them around the internet like a crazy clown, when actually within a sentence we can create this intimacy. So it is appealing to how they make their decisions and then speaking to them in a way that that builds trust quickly.
Yeah. So let's just talk about what do you call it? The law of personal disclosure. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, self-disclosure. Mm-hmm.
Self-disclosure. Okay, thanks. So with the butter knife or with some other example, what does that look like? How do you make a confession about a butter knife?
Okay, just let me scroll here. Okay, so you can do it like this. I try to imagine the reviewer as, their life. They get so many packages sent to them to review. It's almost a hassle. So, one line I use is, "Hey, listen, I don't hand out 5-star reviews like candy. My garage is absolutely stuffed with kitchen gadgets. So when I tripped on yet another box and, almost snapped my ankle, I was this close to throwing this product out until I read this big, bold claim," right? So, we immediately show that this person is picky. We can show that they're picky and then pivot immediately and say, "Well, if you want to find out why a star-stingy reviewer like me was absolutely thrilled with this knife, then keep reading." So we need to create curiosity and get people reading. Too many advertorials right now are just like, "Hey, I found this incredible laundry gadget. Now my kids are behaving really well."
Not only floor wax, but laundry gadgets. And when I think of, self-disclosure, I don't
Right.
know, I tend to think of maybe more intimate stuff or, more private stuff, but doesn't
Well,
have to be. It's really about the person's life. It's something about their
yeah,
life that you normally wouldn't hear.
sure.
And the fact that a reviewer has a garage full of things to review and tripped over something and nearly snapped his ankle, that's self-disclosure too.
Yeah, let me expand on that. So the person sees the shocking claim on front and says, "With a headline like that, I had to look in the box. Now keep this on the down low. But the other reason I'm reviewing this gadget is because I'm addicted to butter. Okay, I'm hooked. It makes any dish we serve addictively delicious. So I'm not going to let a bunch of," and here's where I create an enemy. I call it Big Butter, right? Big Butter wants to stop you, from getting this. So I'm not going to let a bunch of bullies stop me from buttering my toast any way I please. And so I to continue there, the reviewer says, "I got to admit, I've got a confession. I've got a weakness right now, and it's butter. I love it." And then they talk about the problem that they experience. And so, frozen blocks of butter is not the biggest problem in people's lives, but it certainly can cause. It's our obligation. I think it's my obligation to show how this can actually be a real hassle and a real pain in their lives.
You're using your imagination. You're just looking at it from a different point of view. Nathan, I know you've been observing, but is this sparking any questions in you? Because I know you think a lot about these things yourself. Yes, no?
I think a lot about butter.
You really?
The one thing that came up for me was just recently when you said you created Big Butter, this enemy for your prospective reader to throw rocks at. I do run into sometimes when I'm writing a piece. I know that it's important to have an enemy, to have somebody that you're standing side by side with your reader so that they feel like you're an ally for them.
Yeah.
But that was a creative way. Most people would be like, I guess they would say, you know, these butter people are making your life miserable, but you were just like, yeah, these butter people are kind of restricting your ability to do butter the way that you want to do it. And I thought that was kind of a creative way to go about the creating a villain.
Yeah, well, the idea here too is that if these big blocks of butter, if people don't use them in their fridge, then they just get thrown out. So maybe there's someone that's interested in you buying butter. And think about it. I've probably got 2 or 3 in the back of my fridge right now that are going to get tossed, and then inevitably I'll go to the grocery store and buy some more and shove it in the back of the fridge. So the butter knife is the tool that enables them to make the most out of the dairy products in their fridge. But we can also play into stuff like status. And some of this marketing that I've seen for products like this is, there's a person, a restaurant owner who had these knives and people continue to steal them. We can have a story where the guests at this dinner actually steal the butter knives as well. And so, status and showing how something is popular, showing it, right? Rather than just saying that it's the best thing since sliced bread. So yeah, there's room for creativity for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I know one of the things you talk about is product transformation. Is that what you've been talking about, or is that something different?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just taking a sort of a plain Jane product and turning it into an object of desire that people would really want, because it solves a problem in their lives. So one thing that I like to do is speak to sort of jealous neighbors. So I'll give you an example here. Here's a headline this is a light that's actually shaped like an owl. It's an outdoor light. So one of the headlines I used was 287 wows and 3 standing ovations later, and friends and neighbors will still be raving about your retro style owl solar stake light. So I built a deck last year, and I was lying on the deck, and it's my first deck, that I built. And I listened to 2 or 3 or 4 people walk by and stop and talk about the deck. I was like, okay, I get it. That so many of the reasons why people buy things is so it can it can boost their status.
This varies person to person, but as copywriters, we are necessarily not like most people,
Right.
because we're the ones who sort of stand apart and look at most people and say, I need to get into their head. So maybe the kind of status we're looking for is different than a drive-by compliment, that somebody might give for a deck. But I love the way you observe things, and even in real life, you're thinking not as yourself, but as how are other people reacting to this? How are other people doing this?
Yeah.
We've got to wrap up, and I'd love for you to come back next week and maybe walk us through one of your clients' promotions. Before you go, you have something, you have a course that you offer, I think even a free course on Cashvertorials.
So I've got a free workshop that I've got live online. It's an on-demand workshop where I reveal the $33 million secret. I say $33 million because that's what my Cashvertorials have helped my e-com clients make in the last 18 months. And really reveals the secret to writing this best-selling kind of snarky sales copy, how to do it quickly, and then how to translate that and take it to attract, cash flush dream clients, the ones that pay top dollar. So basically during this free training, I'll show anyone who goes to it, and you can find it at cashforatorials.com. Just type that right into your browser. You can sign up and watch this immediately and learn how to pump out these profit exploding sales pages. The ultimate goal here is to get, top dollar clients to say, yes, how do we start working together right now? And to do that, you need to have the ability, if you want to add more clients to your calendar, you need to have the ability to create these kind of pages fast, and a way to get your dream clients to say yes. So that's what I cover in the workshop. So that's cashvertorials.com. Cashvertorials, like advertorials, cashvertorials, cashvertorials.com. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll put that link in the show notes too, so people can find it. All right, well that's great. Why don't we wrap up, and please come back next week, and
Sure.
we can take a deep dive into one of your clients and hear all of the self disclosures that you'd care to make.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
And if you, the listener, want to access the show notes pages, you can do that over at copywriterspodcast.com. And until next time, we will catch you later.
See you later.